And Bedros gave me the best advice that I live to through still to this day is you hire slow and you fire fast.
Theresa, there you go. The floor is yours. Just kind of tell a little bit about yourself.
Well, thank you for having me and everybody for joining us. A little bit about myself. I am have been a gym owner for over 8.5 years. Next year will be our 9 year in business. Outside of that, personal training for over 12 years, and I've always had, not always, but for most of my life, I've had a love of fitness. I was a high school, college athlete, and then once you get out of school and real life hits, personally, after I started a real life job, gained some weight. Personally, have lost close to 100 pounds, and that generated my love of fitness, but my passion of fitness didn't come later in life. I was working at a hospital and I was studying to be a nurse, and I was seeing all these people come in with all these health issues. And I'm like, wait a minute, this is very reactive. Why aren't we more proactive with health so people aren't in the hospital? And then just learning what fitness and diet and exercise can do to help the average person and increase their health to keep them out of the hospital. And that's where my passion for fitness really came into. I was able to see the importance of fitness and health from another viewpoint, and wanted to help as many people as possible. So started personal training one-on-one, and then my husband Antonio happened to find somebody online by the weird name of Bedros, and started following him, and then talked me into opening a Fit Body boot camp, and that's where I've been the last almost 9 years.
Well, I can tell you guys, you don't want to mess with Theresa because she has muscles on muscles and she'll knock you out. So it's been really cool to see just that growth, because I'm from Arizona and I knew who you guys were before getting to really know you guys. So really, you guys have done an incredible job with your marketing, with your leads to members conversion, getting your name out there. But we're right now, this call, we're talking about staff and like, what does a good staff member look like? How do you particularly hire, Theresa? And maybe the goods and the bads of hiring, and things that you've done right, but also the things that you've done wrong when hiring. So I'll leave it up to you, however you want to digest that.
I would say probably the biggest mistake I've made in hiring is hiring out of desperation. You have this position that needs to be filled, and just because you're missing a staff member doesn't mean that the work is missing. The work magically goes away. So you and whoever else is on your staff, you're dividing up all that extra work. So you're worried about your current staff getting burnt out, you're getting burnt out, because ultimately with the owner, the buck stops with them. So anything that is left needed to be done, I was doing. And so if they looked fit and they had a certification, I was hiring them, and just out of desperation. Definitely the biggest mistake that I did. We had a long time of turnover just because they weren't the right fit, but I just needed somebody in there, and brought it up in a meeting. And Bedros gave me the best advice that I live to through still to this day is you hire slow and you fire fast. So you take your time with your hire. You make sure they're the right fit. You make sure they're going to fit into your environment, whatever your community is. That they're coachable, that you're going to be able to coach them, just all these little pieces, so you don't have that river of people going through your doors, which ultimately my main concern is always my members. And as they were seeing coach after coach after coach come and go, maybe they've had time to build relationships with them, maybe they haven't. They were losing trust in me, because they're like, wait, why can't she keep a coach? Or why does she keep hiring all these different people? So slowing down and finding a really good fit not only helped me and the other staff, but it also helped my members regain trust and realize that, yes, I do have their best interests in heart. And it does take a little bit to find that person that is going to fit all pieces of the puzzle.
Oh, that's great advice. Hire slow, fire fast. Now, with that, and of course, we all know Bedros. I mean, he is such a big influence in the fitness world, and really do enjoy, all the insight that he has. Now, with that hire slow, what are some different techniques? Like, what does that mean to you, and how are you able to implement that into your facility?
Mhm. I do, like, we use the normal um, tools to find good leads, for staff member, Indeed, Facebook, things like that, LinkedIn. And you can always see this pool of personal trainers, but a lot of them are coaches, they're currently working. So if you reach out to them and just say, hey, if you're ever looking for a job, keep me in mind, or keeping that ad out there. So you're constantly getting applicants, so you can look them over, interview them. You'll be able to tell if they're a good fit. Another thing is you learn to trust your gut. If during the interview you're kind of like, there's just something holding me back from offering them the job right now, listen to it, but always be hiring, or always be looking, so that way when it does come time to hire, you have a good pool of candidates to pull from. Another avenue I've used is members. I'll say, hey, we're looking for a coach, or we're looking for an admin, or whatever we're looking for. Does anybody know anybody who would, you think, because they go there, they know what we're looking for. Do you know of anybody who would be a good fit with us? That's brought in some good prospects. And also from within, if you have a member that lives, breathes, eats, and is fully invested in FitBody, who better to come in and join the team, because that's half the battle, is getting them to believe in what you're doing. And as a member, they already do. So if you can find somebody within your community that fits that open position, that's a win for everybody. Something off the beaten track I've started doing is, when you're out, having a coffee, eating, and you're getting this amazing service by this person with this amazing personality, and you're like, man, I wish, I want them to come work for me. You obviously don't want to offer them a job right then and there, but it's like, once you start building that rapport with that person and you say, hey, do you work out? I would love to, you provided us such a great service tonight. I would love to offer you a, free 28 days working out at our gym, just as an extra thank you for, your attention tonight. And then once they're in the door working out, see how they work out, see how they interact with the other members. And if it's good, just say, hey, have you ever thought about coaching, or have you ever thought about working in a gym? And then it's not necessarily a cold offer, but you've built a relationship with them, and you get a prospect that way as well.
Oh, great. That's a great one right there. And that's, like you said, it's thinking outside the box, especially when hiring, because it is such a vital portion of your business. And if you hit it right on the nail with the special, they have that they're good with people, and they're nice, and they love it. Those are great qualities to have. Of, they love what they do, they understand what they do, and they can do what you need them to do and be coachable. When you get them into the door, Theresa, what is the next thing that you do? So let's say I am someone that you said, hey, would you be interested in a job? And I said, yes, actually I would. And I'm in the door. What are some different things that you do in that hiring process to, make sure that they're the right fit, to make sure that they have the personality? Like, do you ask them questions? Do you have them go coach on the floor? Like, what is your process, if you don't mind me asking, of making sure that they fit into your facility?
Definitely. First up, we would have a interview, and I'm always involved in that. And I like to have a second person in there with me, just to, and somebody not the same personality type I'm at. So they're looking at this person from a different lens. So it's usually, I like it to be another staff member, because they know what we're looking for. And then we will I have my questions I ask, and I let the second person, whoever's there with me, ask any questions that they have. And we kind of meet before the interview to kind of have a game plan. But some of the best questions I've asked that I find give me the biggest insight into them. And this is, we get job applicants that haven't coached yet. They're just new into the field. So some of the questions I have to work around that, but I ask them to describe their coaching personality, and if they come and they're like, oh, I'm in their face and I'm yelling and I'm boot camp, and I'm like, ooh, like Army boot camp, a drill sergeant, I'm like, probably not going to be the best fit for my members. So asking them to describe their own coaching personality helps a lot. Or if they haven't necessarily coached before, I ask them for personality traits that they currently have that will help them be a great coach, just to kind of see what they think their strengths are. I ask them like to describe, if they have coached before, describe a successful training session. How do you know that you did a good job on the floor and that you want to give yourself a pat on the back for? What are the signs of that? And then feeding off that one, I ask, if you didn't get that feeling, how do you change what you were doing? How can you quick change on the spot and make sure the next session turns into be that world-class session that our members are looking for? A fun one I ask, and it kind of leads into their transparency, is I ask them if they have any of their own weaknesses with fitness, like nutrition, or if they say it's nutrition, I'm like, well, what's your weakness? Is it sweet tooth? Just something to get a little fun into the interview. And then I go on with that and tell them, it's very important to realize that our members are human, and I never want to be the person that our members look up to as being perfect, and this comes easy and she doesn't have to work at it, or they don't have to work at it. I want them to know that I struggle and I like a crumble cookie every now and then, but I know I have to work out to do it. So, being able to be transparent with our members and show them that we also have our pitfalls and our obstacles that we have to work through. Some of the other questions I ask are how their past work or life experience will help them through coaching, and what are their motivational techniques. Like if they have a member that's feeling discouraged, maybe it's they're not getting as strong as they want, they're not seeing the results they want. How do they motivate that member to get re-engaged instead of letting them become disinterested, disappointed in themselves, and ultimately leaving the gym? So those are some of the questions I ask in an interview.
Love it. Love it. And I think it's really big to understand who you're hiring and you understand their characteristics. And, because like you said, if it's not a good fit, your staff represents you and your facility. And so if you hire bad, then you're going to get bad out. So that is great insight on what you see that's working in the different questions. So during that interview process, just what are some characteristics that you're looking for in a trainer? Like if you could map out a couple of key ones that you really look at to hire.
Personality is key. Especially the newly certified coaches or the ones that are in the process of getting certified, I don't want them to feel like just because they haven't coached, that's going to automatically put them out of the running. I can teach anybody on how to correct form. I can teach anybody what a squat is. I cannot teach somebody personality. So personality is always the first thing I look for. I look for a personal connection to fitness. Like that's one of another questions I ask is, how did you get into fitness? What made you decide to pursue a fitness career? Because the more personally tied to fitness that they are, the more passion that they're going to have in their coaching, and the more they're going to push that into our members. So I like those people who have a personal tie to fitness. My current coach was in a horrific accident when he was younger, was told he was never going to walk again, and started working through physical therapy, and through that developed a love of fitness and what our bodies can do. And I'm like, hired, that's an amazing story. So I really look for a personal passion for fitness. And then just being coachable. Like one of the other questions is, how are you at giving feedback and how are you at receiving feedback? Because as a coach, you need to be coachable. And as a coach, you kind of need your own coach. So those go hand in hand. So I make sure to get a feel of that.
It's interesting that you bring that up, because when I was running my facility, I was GM of a place, and I do remember, over the course of 9 years of doing that, bringing in different trainers and being coachable to be able to receive that feedback to improve. And I just remember one, and it was just, you would let them know, and they almost shrunk into their shell of oh, I'm not a good enough coach. You're like, no, you just need to work on X, Y, and Z when you're out there on the floor. And so that is all great characteristics to be looking for. So let's just say they make it through. You're like, okay, this looks like a great fit. Then what do you do after that?
Yep. Then I have them come in and do a workout. And it is one of two things. It's to make sure they can walk the walk, lead from the front. Our workouts are difficult, so I don't care that they struggle through it, but do they give it 100% like we expect and ask our members to do? And then also I want them to have a good idea of what that coach on the mic sounds like, what they're doing, and really question themselves. And that's what I tell them. I want you to go into this workout listening to the coach and questioning yourself if that's something that you want to do, if that's something you can do, and if that's something that you would be able to do when you wake up and you have a headache, or maybe you are not in the best of moods. Are you going to be able to walk in the door, leave all that behind, and be that magnetic personality on the mic? So I do have them go through a workout. I used to have them coach a mock workout, and I feel like that caused a lot of anxiety in the people, which I completely understand. And not only that, I have a smaller staff, but so we would bring in some of our veteran members to help with that mock session as well. I also felt that was their first impression of this coach. And if I did end up hiring that coach, that first impression stayed for a while. They're like, oh, they don't really know how to coach. So I'm not going to go to their sessions. And I'm like, no, that was a mock. That was their first one. I'm like, I'm just not going to do that anymore. So if they make it through the interview and they make it through the workout and they decide that they want to do that and they're still a good fit, between me and the coaches, we'll run them through a couple mock sessions, and then they'll run the coaches through a mock session just to keep the members out of it. But I didn't want to hire or not hire them based on that mock session, so I stopped doing it.
You bring up a great point of the mock session, and it kind of can stick with the members, and they go, oh, I don't want to hire, or I don't want to go to that session when they're new. Have you ever ran into an issue where, and I know we're talking about hiring, but what about leaving? Have you ever ran into an issue where, a staff member leaves and it causes an issue inside the facility? And I know I'm kind of spinning this right now, I'm kind of throwing a curveball here, but how do you do that in that case of like, okay, I'm gonna have a staff member that's leaving a coach and very well liked, whether it's, they can't do it anymore or they're moving. How do you, go about that? Because I've dealt with it in my facility that I used to GM, but I just would love to hear your thoughts on it. And what do you do in that case when someone has to leave, and does it cause turbulence in the gym?
One time, I would say one time it did, and that was probably, it was negative on both sides. That was the first time somebody had been with me for a long period of time and were leaving not under the best terms. So I didn't handle them leaving probably the way that I should have as far as the members were concerned. And then after they left, then they were, for the lack of a better word, trying to poach members. So that caused a lot of tension in the gym for a little bit. But I realized I wasn't as transparent through the whole process that I needed to be. So as soon as I found out he was contacting members, I shot a video, posted it on our Facebook group, and just explained the whole, everything that had happened. And it was, it wasn't that we left on bad terms. It was just a bad situation. And so I'm like, that guy's an awesome guy. But that did settle it down, that situation. But other than that, we've always left on really good terms. As soon as I know that coach is leaving, we announce it I leave it up to the coach. When do you want to announce it to the members? Do you want me to announce it? Do you want to announce it? And we just kind of let each situation run its own natural course. We don't hide anything. Thankfully, my gym in general has an awesome community. We call it our Fit Family. So that one coach is a piece of that community, and they'll always be missed. I still have coaches that we talk about. I still have coaches that we have a little coach shrine built that they've left little pieces of either their microphone cover or their gym key. So people will always remember them. So luckily, I think our community knows that people are going to come and go, and they miss them, but they understand that their bulk of their community is within the gym, so it doesn't really cause a whole lot of turbulence anymore.
You bring up a great point, is that community, and that it's not just the staff that makes the community, it's the people that are at your gym that do more. And it's funny that you say poach, because I do remember I had a time where I did have a trainer that unfortunately was poaching, and it really was. It was hard. I mean, because you work so hard for these leads to become members, you're paying a lot of money. That's money off your table, out of your gym, and then suddenly someone leaves and starts poaching. And that has happened to myself as well when I was GMing. And so, what do you do in that case? When it comes to your communication. So, when you hire somebody, do you have them work in a system like Fit Pro Tracker, or your leads, or following up with your members? Like, do you own that communication, or do you let your staff members communicate on their phone, or their own personal email? Like, how do you go about that?
We do use a lot of the communication goes through Fit Pro Tracker, and I just communicate it to current staff. And the current staff here, every time a new staff member comes on, that the reason we use this system is if you get married and you're on your honeymoon for 10 days, that doesn't mean the member should not be supported while you're gone. So whoever staff B is filling in while you're gone, they need to know what that member needs and has been talking to you about. So that's why we do it in Fit Pro Tracker, so everybody can see it. I know that there's like Facebook messages and probably a little text messages. I have a coach who is over the top with Halloween, and so people are like, oh, give me your address, I want to drive by your house. And so I tell them, if you're not comfortable with that, don't give it. And if you want me to address it, I can address it. And he's like, no, I could drive by. So it's things like that. I 100% trust my staff to not. I've learned my lesson with that first coach, and I've changed how I lead. So I trust them. I let them in Fit Pro Tracker. However, they do have a non-compete clause that they sign with their employer, or when they start employment with me. Not that that's always easy to put in effect once they leave, but I think again they get involved in the community and they want the best for those people, not what's best for them.
Right. Yeah, no, and that's great. And I know that's what we had to do, was a non-compete clause for that reason as well. And yeah, it's one of those things about owning communication, owning what's happening, because like I said, for me, I didn't have any systems. I didn't have like a system like Fit Pro Tracker where all lines of communication, texting, email, outbound calling was happening inside one place. And so for me, I just had to trust these trainers that they were going to be following up and doing the leads and calling or texting I wasn't going to ask them for their cell phone or their email.
Yeah.
Hey, let me log in. So that's, you mentioned FitPro Tracker and how you do that. Do you see any benefit with FitPro Tracker and what it has to offer when it comes from an owner perspective to your staff and being able to see what they text or email?
Oh, 100%. Like I said, I sometimes will hire a very new coach. They haven't done this before. The floor coaching will come easy. The accountability coaching, the nutrition coaching is, that's a whole nother level of coaching. So, and that was the other way I, said, this is why we're using FitPro Tracker, because I'm going to do quality checks. I want to make sure our members are getting coached to the best level of what they're paying for. They're paying us money each month to do this. So I have to make sure you guys are doing it right. So they knew that I would be in there looking at it. We would look at it as a team, like each of us would say, okay, we're going to look at this person and go through their communications, go through their progress reports. So as an owner, it said, I didn't have anything like that before FitPro Tracker. So it set my mind at ease that, okay, I'm doing everything I can do to make sure that my members are getting the coaching that they're paying for. Where before that, I was kind of hoping, I was asked, I would ask them, I'm like, hey, how did you reply to their progress report? They could tell me what they did. I had no way of checking it unless I made them sign in and show me. So yeah, it definitely set my mind and at ease, which also built my trust level a little bit. I'm a little bit of a control freak, so not seeing things made me think, I can't trust them. But now that I can see it, and I can look at it anytime I want, it kind of eased the distrust. It makes me a better leader because they can feel the trust.
Love it. Love it. It's all about that trust, especially with that staff and making sure. And you know what? And it also helps the staff member know that even though you might not be micromanaging, at any point you can log in and see exactly what that staff member said, text wise, email wise, or call wise. So I think I'm with you. I think that is awesome. Just a couple more questions. I know we're kind of running out of time. So if you're on this call, I promise we're going to be done here pretty soon. I'm parking the bus. So now when you go to hire, have you ever hired someone that was just for sales and just for coaching? Kind of walk us through that if you can.
So I have, and that's usually what I like to do, because I want my members to be able to day one build a relationship with their coach, trust them, know that they have their best interests in heart. I've done sales. I'm sure you've done sales. I'm sure everybody on this call has done sales. Just because you sell something does not make you a bad person. However, the concept of selling can sometimes feel slimy to people. And I never want a member to dread talking to their coach because they're like, oh, my trial's coming to an end. I know they're going to try to sell me, so I'm just going to like ghost for the last week. I don't want that. I want them, even if they choose not to stay with me, I want them to get the full benefit of what they paid for to start. So that's why I've always kind of split coaching and sales, unless it's, myself. And I look for different things. I look for more of the personalities. They're going to be a little different. My coaching, if anybody on here is familiar with the Take Flight with Learning and the personality styles, my coaches are doves and parrots. Doves maybe don't make the best salesperson because they're very empathetic, and if they hear the word no, they may not push back. So my salespeople, I look for a little bit more like eagle or still parrot, because they still have to be people person, but the personalities are a little bit different.
That's a great point of, those different personalities that you're looking for in the sales side versus the personal training side, or the staff member getting on the floor side, because it is. And if you aren't familiar with that BIRDS test, definitely take a look at that, because that can really help when it comes to hiring your different staff, because then you can now categorize what you need. And at the same time, you're able to see what each staff member that you have on your team is and what works best for them, how they thrive, or how they can be discouraged in the workplace. And so it can help you be able to formulate what that looks like. But yes, I am with you when it comes to the selling side. It can be a tough, and that can actually scare some of these staff members because they don't want to get told no, or they don't want to come off, as if they're too salesy or they have sales breath. So I think that is a great thing. It's funny, we talked about FitPro Tracker before. I was talking to a gym owner, and when we turned on the calling feature for them, they found out, and I wonder if this has ever happened to you, where they thought that their sales staff member was actually making the call. And when they turned on the calling feature that you can call out a FitPro Tracker, and if you want it can record as well, they found out that their salesperson actually wasn't making the calls they said they were making. And so they were able to now, as an owner, track those calls. And they actually ended up having to let the salesperson go because they weren't doing it.
Yep. That has helped me in a couple different scenarios. The call feature definitely, I noticed their numbers were a little inflated based on hours logged in. I'm like, this is not making sense. So that calling feature definitely helped spot discrepancies in their reporting, which in turn, affects your financial line. And then coaching, listening to their sales call and being able to coach them and say, okay, right here, when they asked that, this is what the script says to say versus what you said. And, lines like that helps as well. FitPro Tracker, the tracking when they're, being time logged in, when I have coaches help me with the challenges, I have an idea of how long the stuff takes because I do it myself. And I have one coach saying, okay, I had an extra hour of work, and I have another coach with the same amount of people saying, okay, I have 10 extra hours of work. And I'm like, well, you're getting it done in 1 hour and it's taking you 10. So then I can go through looking how long they were logged in. Did they make any calls? What do their texts look like? What do their emails look like? And be able to coach both of them, because I'm like, it takes me 3 to 4 hours to do the work, to coach both of them up into that, down to this, and then up to this level of coaching, and saved a lot of payroll hours as well.
Yes, and that money, and that's huge. And that was one thing that we had to really tackle, was we call it the time fluffing. Oh, here's an extra 15 minutes here and an extra 15. Well, that's 30 minutes in one day. You multiply that by 5 days a week. I mean, that really adds up to the payroll, and it's huge. So, well, Theresa, this has been very insightful. Like I said, you are very, very well respected in the gym world. And, it's really cool to hear your side of it when it comes to hiring staff, and what do you look for? What questions do you ask? What's the process of going through it? And then really setting your own facility up for success. Is there any other, leaving tips, ending tips that you want to, talk about, explain, share?
Probably one I mentioned before, the two big things: don't hire under desperation, hire slow, fire fast. If you feel like, especially hire slow definitely, but that will help you get to the fire fast. If you know in your gut that it's just not going to work out, you rip the Band-Aid off for both of you. It'll help that other person out, as well as yourself, as well as all your other staff and members, because they can feel the tension.
That's great advice. That is great advice. And sometimes people don't fire fast, and it just, like we talked about before with community, it can really erode that community very, very quick, not only on your staff, but inside your facility. I'm going to open it up, and for anybody that's on this call right now, if you have any questions, and you might not, and if you do, just contact us. We'll answer them to the best. So just open up to Q&A just for 5 minutes. I know we're kind of going over time. So anybody on this call have any questions, and I'll let it go for about 30 seconds, and then I'll do a closing statement.
While we're waiting, if anybody has a question, Austin, you'll appreciate this. I just hired a new coach. She started Monday, and I already did her personality test. 98% parrot.
Oh, you gotta be kidding me.
Yep.
Oh, that is so great. I love it, because guys, that bird test, I scored a 98 parrot, and everyone's like, whoa, you're a little too over the top. So That is so awesome. I'm glad that there's
Yeah.
another parrot on board.
Yep. Yeah.
Oh, that's so. Did she have any other characteristics that were
It
overall?
was parrot and dove.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yep.
That is really cool. I'll tell you something while we're waiting. My parents have taken a very similar test, and then my wife and I took a very similar test. Myself and my father are almost identical, and my wife and my mom are almost identical. It is the weird. So now that's the joke between my wife and I. Is like, my wife's always like, "Well, you married your mom," so so it's just so funny. It's one of
That
those
is,
things that's cool.
that's funny.
Well, awesome. Well, I don't see anybody writing in or asking any questions, but again, guys, we greatly appreciate you. And Theresa, thank you for hopping on the call. We really do appreciate your insight, your knowledge, your wisdom in helping. This is the reason why we do these calls monthly, is to help you guys in any capacity, whether it's converting leads to sales, you reigniting your past members, hiring staff. FitPro Tracker wants to help you grow. Remember, FitPro Tracker was made by gym owners for gym owners. And what we do is we help convert leads to members, help with the billing, all in one system to grow your facility. So if you have any questions, please, down in the chat, ask us, shoot me a text, shoot me an email, whatever you guys need, we're here to help. And again, Theresa, thank you so much for your time and your insight. We really do appreciate you.
Well, thank you for having me. It was fun.
Awesome. Have a wonderful day, guys. Talk to you later.